I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the easy crochet snowflake pattern. This is an easy pattern that has only 2 rounds to it, and I show you all the stitches and all the supplies you'll need to make different variations of this simple snowflake. If you like this project, make sure to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to click to subscribe. Let's get started. To make this project, you only need to know how to do a chain, slip stitch, and half double crochet. And if you'd like to see the free written pattern, you can visit my blog, CelticKnotCrochet.com, at the link in the description below, and you'll see all the details of this pattern in written form. If you use the size 3 cotton crochet thread, the thicker thread, your snowflake will be about 7.5 inches across. And if you use the size 10 cotton crochet thread, then your snowflake will be about 4.5 inches across. And then the opening in the middle would be 2 inches for the large snowflake and about 1.5 for the small snowflake. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to crochet 1 round and connect it to create this hexagon shape in the middle, and then we're going to work the second round making all of these spokes. Lastly, we do all the finishing touches. We stiffen the snowflake, you can add glitter, and then you can add different craft supplies to the large spaces or the center to make your snowflake unique. Let's talk about the crochet supplies you'll need for this project. All other supplies I'll talk about when we get to that part of the project. You'll want Aunt Lydia's Classic 10 cotton crochet thread or any size 10 cotton crochet thread. I love this one, it works great. And to go with that, you'll need a 1.5 millimeter crochet hook, which is pretty small. Now, if you don't want to make your snowflake with this small thread, that's totally fine. You can do the same exact pattern and use size 3 cotton crochet thread. And this thread here is by Elizabeth in Snow White. And this will definitely make your snowflake a lot bigger, but it is easier to work with the thicker thread. And to work with the thicker thread, you'll need a 2.75 millimeter or C hook. You could see how they compare. And then I always find working with thread projects, it's best to have an embroidery needle instead of your standard yarn needle because the project is so small. And of course you'll need scissors. So I love to crochet with this thin thread, but it can be hard to see on a video. So I'm going to show you all the stitches with thicker yarn and a larger hook. And this will make a very big snowflake, but it'll help you see what you need to do. So you're going to start out by putting your slip knot on your hook and chaining 37. Okay, and now to work the beginning stitches, well, actually to work all the stitches along the chain, we're going to turn the chain over and we're going to work into this back bar of the chain, or this back bump right here. See it right there? So we're going to work all the way down, working in those spaces, and it will create this really nice clean edge for the inside of our snowflake. So we're going to skip the first 2 stitches and we're going to put a half double crochet, which is yarn over, put our hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. I've got a bunch of glitter here we can move out of the way. And then you're going to chain 2 and you're going to put another half double crochet in that same chain. And this creates our first point of the center hexagon. Next, we're going to work across the chain, and we're going to put a half double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you see the project taking shape, we have a chain 2 space right here, and then 5 half double crochets here, and there's another half double here and here. So half double, chain 2 half double, 5 half doubles. So we're just going to repeat that 5 more times. So we do a half double crochet in the next chain, chain 2, because we need another point of our hexagon, and then yarn over and half double crochet in that same stitch, and then work half double crochet in the next 5. Now, because I like to use this back bar often in my Celtic knot projects, I like to hold the chain over my middle finger like so, and that way it's really easy to come at it from the side. I'm gripping it with my thumb so it stays in place, and I can even use my fingernail to help me put it right through that back bar. I adjust my hands at the end of each stitch. Grab here to pull everything through, and then go back to laying it on my middle finger. So some people find it hard to find that back bump, and because you will be doing this with thinner yarn, it can be hard to see. So here's a little tip for you to help you find that part of the chain. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing the half double, chain 2 half double in one chain, and then 5 half doubles down the line. And I'll do that so I have a total of 6 points, and at the last point I'll show you what to do for the end. Here you can see I'm almost finished with round 1, and I have this nice hexagon shape forming from adding those stitches in every 6 chains. So here's point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just completed point 6, and now I have 4 chains left. So I'm going to do half double crochets in those last 4 chains. Now we only have 4 half double crochets here, because back here at the beginning, if you remember, we did a half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So right here is basically a turning chain, and we're going to join with a slip stitch in the top of this turning chain, and that acts as another stitch. So that's our 5th half double crochet right there, and this just helps everything to be more even. So I'll put my hook under both of those loops of the top of that turning chain and yarn over, pull through everything. That's a slip stitch. Now I like to do it this way instead of joining the chain. So you can do this now, or you can do it later before we stiffen the snowflake. But I just use this beginning yarn tail. See how the bottom of the rounds are not connected. So I just use the yarn tail to sew it up, like so. And now I have this nice hexagon that's ready to add our second round. Okay, now we are ready to add the spokes to our snowflake, and this is the last round. So I'm going to chain 1 and slip stitch in this next stitch here, that first half double crochet, and then you could chain one here if you wanted. I'm going to chain one and slip stitch into that chain two space. So now we're going to make the large loops. I'm going to chain 12, and then I'm going to work a chain 3 picot. So I like to put my thumb right at that last chain, the 12th chain, to hold my place, and I do 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do a slip stitch in that back bar of the 3rd chain from my hook. Yarn over, pull through everything. And that just creates this little bauble on the end. And then I'm going to chain 12 again. And then I want to make sure that my chain is not twisted, and I'm going to put a slip stitch into that same chain 2 space that I started in. Oops. So that's what it looks like so far. Our first large loop. Now I'm going to chain 4, and I'm going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a slip stitch in that next stitch. It's the center stitch along the side of the hexagon. And now I'm going to make the fancy spoke. So this is our big open spoke, and then we have a fancy spoke. So I'm going to chain 6, then I'm going to hold that 6th chain, and I'm going to do a chain 5 picot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like the chain 3 picot, I'm going to go back to that first chain I made in this set. So this is the 5th chain from my hook. I'm going to put my hook through the back bar of that 5th chain, yarn over, and pull through everything for a slip stitch. Okay, and that creates the first bauble. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do another chain 5 picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put my hook through that back bar, yarn over, pull through everything, and I'm going to do 2 more right next to each other. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. Slip stitch in the 5th chain from the hook, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. Slip stitch in the back bar. So now I have something that looks like this. I have chain 6, a bauble, chain 2, and then I have 3 chain 5 picots. So now I'm going to go to that first chain 5 of this 3 set right here, and I'm going to put my hook into that and put another slip stitch. That helps close up the tip. So I have 1, 2, 3 like that. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do another slip stitch inside this chain 5 picot. Put my hook in, yarn over, pull through everything, and then I'll do another chain 5 picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then slip stitch in the 5th chain from the hook. And you can see how by putting those slip stitches in there, it helps hold it all together. And the picots give those nice little baubles. And then I chain 6 again to finish off. And again, I make sure it's not twisted, and I slip stitch into that same stitch that I did before, and then I'm going to chain 4 and skip the next 3 stitches, or I don't even have to count stitches. I can just aim for that next chain 2 space, and I put a slip stitch in there. So here we have our fancy spoke and our large spoke. like so. So to continue the snowflake, that is what you'll repeat. You'll do chain 12, chain 3 picot, chain 12, slip stitch in the same chain 2 space, then chain 4, skip 3, slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we'll do chain 6, chain 5 picot, chain 2, chain 5 picot 3 times, then slip stitch in the first one of this 3, then chain 2, slip stitch in this chain 5 picot, then one more chain 5 picot, chain 6, slip stitch here, then chain 4, slip stitch in the next chain 2 space. So I'm going to repeat this whole set 5 more times. So I'm working along this side of the hexagon and into that chain 2 space, work along this side, this side, this side, and then the last side. And I end by chaining 4 and slip stitching here in the first slip stitch of the big loop. So that's all there is to it. If you need to watch that again, feel free to rewind a little and you can follow along for all 5 repeats while I do this first repeat. And if you don't need it and you're all set, make sure to use the chapter links in the description below where you can skip ahead to stiffening and putting the finishing touches on our snowflake. Here is our snowflake completed, but it needs some help. So here's the snowflake with the size 10 cotton thread, and we're going to stiffen it, and that will make all of these spokes stand out and look their best. What I like to use is one of these blocking boards. You can see it's pretty thick foam. You could use a cork board. And then I like to put a piece of clean aluminum foil over the top, and I pin it in place with a few pins that I reserve for stiffening projects. They're rust-proof pins, and they work great for doing this sort of thing. And then I make sure I have my Crafter's Pick fabric stiffener. You'll find a link to this in the description below. I find mine at Hobby Lobby. And a little tip, I put the date on when I purchase it, so I know when it's starting to get old, because I've discovered that if it's maybe over 3 years old, it starts to lose its oomph and it won't dry clear anymore. So take my little tip and put your date on it so you can keep track of how good your product is here. And I really like this bottle because it has this top like a Elmer's glue kind of bottle, and so I can control how much comes out, and it's really easy to apply it like so. So after I have all my supplies together, I shake up my fabric stiffener, make sure the end is open, and then I just crumple up the snowflake in my hand and dab on the stiffener to get it coated. You could put the stiffener in a bowl and dip the snowflake in there, and you might want to do that if you're making a lot of these. But I find this works pretty well. It does get all over your hands, but it washes off very easily with warm water. It's just basically white glue. But I want to make sure all the spokes are soaked, so if I see a dry spot, and I squeeze it between my fingers so it all gets pressed into there. So when I'm making snowflakes like this, where I'm not using a Celtic knot, this is how I like to stiffen them. When I'm stiffening them with a Celtic knot, I do a different, more delicate method. Okay, so let's zoom in a little. So I have my supplies here for stiffening, and feels like it's all nice and good and wet. So I'll place it down on my work surface. I know it's a little hard to see. So normally I would put it directly onto the aluminum foil, but so you can see it a little bit better, we're going to do it with the red. But whatever you use, it has to be something that the glue won't stick to. So I'm not going to keep it on this paper because the glue would stick to it. So I'm going to first pin at the inside corners of all the hexagon points. And you might have to adjust it. You can move the pins around till you get the shape you like. But I like starting here at the center, like that. So I have that nice hexagon shape. Next step, you'll want to do the fancy spokes first, because those come straight out from the side of the hexagon. Want to make sure they're laying flat. I can angle the chain 5 picots whichever way I want. And I go around and do all of those. Here all the fancy spokes are laid out, and if you want you can pin as many places as you want to hold in place. So I think this is good enough, but you could pin these if you wanted to, each of the little chain 5 picots to hold them in place. Next, I'm going to do the large spaces. So I pull them out and then open them up into a shape I like. There's so many shapes you can do these in. You can do it as a diamond, like this, or you can do it as a soft rounded oval like that, or you can push it back down in, do something like that. I mean, there's so many things you can do, but I liked having it just like a soft oval like that. And I just put a pin here in the chain 3 picot and then left the rest to just kind of fall into place. The stiffener dries very quickly, so you'll find that it's by the time you get to this point, it's already getting a little tacky, which will help it stay where you would like it. But anything that's not cooperating, you can pin in place. And you can turn your work surface instead of trying to reach around all these pins. I like to just rotate the board like so, so that I'm always working below the rest of the project like this. Okay, so here our snowflake is complete. Again, you can make adjustments if you'd like these to be wider and coming out more. That might look nice. It's nice to have a contrast of the fancy spokes with the large opening. Okay, and if they don't stay where you want them, just add a pin. Okay, so I will let that dry completely. If it's warm and sunny where you live, you can put this in the sun and it'll dry lickety-split, and you'll be able to do the next step before the day is out, or you can let it dry overnight. So I removed most of my pins, let it dry overnight, and peeled it off the aluminum foil, and this is what I have here. A nice stiffened snowflake that's ready to embellish. Now that my snowflake is stiffened, I'm going to add some glitter. This is optional, but it really adds a fun touch to your snowflake. So what you want to do is you can just use the aluminum foil you use for stiffening. It's a little dirty, but that's okay because we're going to transfer it to another place. And I'm going to put some of the stiffener on the side. And this time I'm going to use a paintbrush and just coat the whole front. And I want to do it quickly because I want it to be nice and tacky for when I add the glitter. So I'm just going around like this. As you can see, I'm doing it on a surface that I'm not going to let it dry on because then the glitter would stick to that surface. I think it's pretty well covered. I want to make sure it's blended in so there aren't big puddles of it around. Okay, and now I'm going to move this to the side, and I'm going to use just a piece of paper, and I want to fold it in half. And this way I can catch the glitter and put it, the unused glitter, I can put it back into the bottle. And I'm going to use this glitter here. It's fabric glitter, but I just really like the color, and it's kind of chunky. I'm going to place the snowflake down in the center, and then just shake the glitter over the top. Make sure it's thoroughly coated, and then I'll pick it up gently and tap it off and set it aside to dry. And then you can take this piece of paper that you folded in half, and by having that fold there, it helps you dump the glitter, excess glitter, back into the container. And there you go. So now I'm going to let this dry. It looks so pretty already. I don't want to touch it too much. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to add on that center piece. Now I wanted to show you my two versions of adding glitter to these snowflakes. So this one I showed you how I added the chunky glitter, and I love how this looks, but you can't really see any of the crochet stitches anymore, but that's okay. And then this one I added a very, very fine glitter, and it gives it a different look. So you can decide. You can see here the chunkier glitter, you can see here they're little squares, but the fine glitter is just like sand. So I think they both look great, but I thought you'd want to see the difference between the two kinds of glitter. So now I'm going to show you how to add the fabric to the center and to these other big spaces. Of course, you could add some vinyl or any other kind of paper that you like. You could even add a photo, and I'll show you how I would do that in a little bit. So I went shopping in the special occasion fabrics at Hobby Lobby, but at Joann's and other stores that sell fabric, you would find something like this. It's sheer, but it has this great iridescent shine to it. And what I would do is cut a rectangle that's a little bit larger than our hexagon. And I'm going to flip it over to the wrong side. And I'm going to use my hot glue gun and go along maybe two of the sides because it dries really quickly. And carefully, because this is sheer fabric, press it down. It's going to be a little hot on your fingers, so you could use a popsicle stick if you wanted, or a silicone fingertip. And then I'll pull back the fabric and continue along two more sides and press it down. Because we won't be washing this project, I can use the hot glue gun and get quick results. Make sure it's nice and taut. Okay, and when I'm pretty sure that it's cooled, I'm going to take my scissors and trim the fabric. So you glue first, trim second. That's been what I found works the best. If you try to cut your fabric exactly the size you want before you glue it to your crochet project, you'll get frustrated because it will never be the right size. For some reason, it's just really hard to do it that way. So this is the way I like to do it, nice and quick. Use two hands here. Now, because of the nature of this fabric, it could fray. So what you could do is take your paintbrush like you did for the glitter and paint on some of the fabric stiffener just along that edge. Takes just a couple seconds. You could also just put an edge of hot glue along there, and that'll just help prevent it from fraying. And then I turn it over, and that's what it looks like. And I was thinking this would look so pretty hanging on a tree in front of one of the light bulbs. So if you'd like, you can continue and do the same method for all of these larger spaces. Here you can see how I've added the fabric to all the big spaces. I love how this looks. And then I thought it would be fun to add some gems. And I wanted to show you how I like to do that with projects like this that are not going to be washed. I have flat back gems right here, and they're pretty small. I think they're 6 millimeters. But what you do is you get one of these gem pickers, and I'll put the link in the description below. It's great to use on a variety of craft projects. And I'm just going to put a little dab of the hot glue here. And then I take this gem picker, and it's got a sticky end here. And it picks up the gem for me. See how it picked it up? And then I can place it right on top of the glue dot. So I use this a lot for my daughter's Irish dance costume, but it also comes in handy for other craft projects. So I'm just and it really saves a lot of time, and it helps you to place it nicely. And when you buy one of these, you get this nice case, and you get a couple other tips for after you use them for a while. The wax starts to kind of break down, and you just need a new one, so you can unscrew it and put a new one on. So how do you think it looks with some of the gems on it? Another option I wanted to show you for this easy crochet snowflake pattern is adding some of this holographic vinyl. I found this at my local craft store, and it's put out by Cricut for those really fancy die cut machines. It's called holographic vinyl, and I thought it was just so pretty and could do a lot of really nice reflections on the inside of the snowflake. So I thought I'll show you how to do this. This is another option instead of the fabric. It is sticky back, but I'm just going to leave the back on there. Nobody's going to see it. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the fabric. Zoom in a little here. So just going to do, this time I'm going to do half of it, 3 sides, and then quickly place it down. Remember, I cut a piece that's larger than what I need, because I'll trim it with my scissors once it's cooled. Oh, it looks great. Okay, and then just peel it back a little bit so I can glue the other half of the hexagon. Press it down. The vinyl's nice and thick, so this won't hurt your fingers. Just want to make sure the glue fully cures and cools before we trim it. So I got a little funky stuff right here, so I might be able to pick that out. And just like I did with the fabric, I'm going to come in behind the crochet and just cut off the excess like so, being careful not to cut my crochet project. So I can just pick that glue off the middle there, and I can use a damp rag to clean the glitter off. But it's just a different look for you. And if you want, you can fill in these big spaces, but I just thought the holographic would look really pretty. One other idea you could do with this large opening in the center of your snowflake is add a photo. So I just printed out a photo of my grandma here at her 100th birthday party. She's going to be 102 next week, and I printed it out so it would fit just inside the snowflake like so. And then I can add it just like I added the fabric. I would glue it on. But a nice little tip when you're using a photo is that you can use a piece of clear acetate. So you can use a sheet protector, works great. So you could see I cut a piece of that sheet protector. It's a nice heavy duty one. Like I said, you can also buy acetate. I like to use those old transparency sheets. It's hard to find them now, but they work great. And I just layer it over the top. So I would tack it with some of the glue just so it stays in place, but this protects the photo and gives a nice finished look like it's a mini frame. And then using my glue gun, just like I did with the fabric, I would place it inside the opening, press it down with all the glue, and then on the back side, use my sharp scissors to cut off the excess. And then you could put another piece of acetate or felt on the back and a hanging loop here, or you can attach the hanging loop to one of the spaces. So there you have a couple different ways to add some finishing touches to your easy snowflake. So I hope you enjoyed making this project. Please make sure to give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to click to subscribe. I have many Christmas project videos here on my YouTube channel. Merry Christmas!